My name is John Burns. I'm here to provide an overview and a demonstration of our solution around accounts payable, and to specifically talk about the 4 benefits of a digitized and automated AP system. With me today is Peter Hens, a solution architect, and he will be running through the actual demonstration portion of the session. So our brief agenda is we're going to go over our goals and objectives, what we're just covering now, then go over our Flatirons and EMC product overview and the technologies on top of which we have built our solution. Critical component to every AP solution we've integrated is the integration around the ERP. And so we're going to actually show a demonstration and a architecture of how we integrate contextually within ERPs. We'll provide a live demo of our system and actually process some AP transactions and recap. So to get into the meat of the presentation, the 4 benefits of a digitized system from our experience is frankly first and foremost to save money. There's a lot of wasted time and money spent on indexing and digitizing and organizing content, where we think a system like ours would be able to help that greatly. In addition, we believe there's revenue enhancement opportunities by doing things like early discounts and three-way matching, and to automate activities that maximize cash flow and minimize costs. Risk reduction, we all know that there's more and more scrutiny around financial transactions, and our system allows to have a rich security controls and audit mechanisms to know who did what when, and making sure the right people have the right access to the information, and only the right people have that access. And lastly, visibility. How often do we all want to know where is an invoice in the process, where is my expense report, where is this rent payment? And the system allows fantastic and unprecedented visibility for participants and executives and even vendors to be able to know where their transaction is in the overall process. So Flatirons is a longtime partner of EMC and was recently awarded Worldwide Partner of the Year for the Enterprise Content Division of EMC this previous year. The company specializes in content and content solutions from really cradle to grave. So creation of content, publishing of content, managing of content through technologies like ECM. So content is really our specialization. Offices around the world and really have the reach and capabilities of being able to support your AP system wherever it may be located. So our solutions that we have that are certified on the EMC product stack are not just around accounts payable. We have suites of solutions around contracts management and around HR automation and other totally different areas like correspondence management and other industry-specific applications. What the point we would like to make here is that an investment in our accounts payable solution allows you to be able to more quickly introduce other technologies and based on the same technology. So you'd be able to do things like find out all of the contracts related to the accounts payable item that you're processing. Similarly, you could be in a contract and say how much have we spent against this contract, and be able to dynamically link to the content and the data in the accounts payable system. But let's get into accounts payable challenges. We all know we're expected to do more or less, and that there's more and more control that's required, and from the industries as well as from regulators. AP has been studied quite a bit. Regardless of the size of the company, it's expensive. It does take a certain amount of time and personnel and resources to process invoices. It doesn't necessarily go down when you get larger. We do see, though, however, a great difference in the amount of time and money it takes to process invoices between people who apply technology to digitize and to automate the process versus people maybe in the middle that only do some basic digitization and use some basic automation. And then obviously the ones on the top use both digitization and automation to significantly reduce the time it takes to process a particular AP transaction. So let's get into the technologies that we use to enable this solution. There are really 2 key technologies from EMC that we're going to show you today, our solution layers on top of. Captiva for capturing or scanning or capturing from email or from fax. So Captiva is an index and it's a capture tool that allows you to capture pull the data off of the invoice, and even do some basic validation. The second technology we're going to show you is Documentum for the repository and for the workflow. So Captiva allows you a number of different inputs into the same backbone of AP processing. So you could be at a multifunction device, a desktop scanner. You could even have there's a mobile client, so you could be on the road and take a snapshot from your phone of a receipt and have it automatically brought into the system. So once it's in Captiva, there's a pretty neat set of capabilities. The first capability is the ability to auto-classify that particular newly scanned document. And the concept here is that you can minimize the use of separator sheets and barcodes and other mechanisms like that, pre-indexing, because the system's gotten better at being able to quickly look and see, no, this is an invoice, or this is something not related to an invoice at all, a quote, a contract, something else altogether. The next step after the classification is done is the extraction piece. Captiva has two ways to do extraction. One is to train it to look specific places on the page for different values, and the other one is to allow Captiva to look anywhere on the page, what's called a free-form extraction, to be able to pull data off the page. So that allows you to not only OCR the data, but to be able to automatically pull information like invoice name or vendor name or purchase order number, and even the line item information. In the demo we'll show you, we think just this step is a huge time saver and overall kind of quite a capability of our system. The next thing Captiva is able to do, or our solution is able to do, is validate those newly extracted values. So maybe what we do, and we do in our demo, or our solution is we'll take a purchase order number and then look up into the ERP to see if that's a valid purchase order number. Similar with vendor, is this an active vendor? And we can do a number of validations on the newly scanned invoice. The next technology we want to talk about that we're going to show you today is Documentum. And specifically, Documentum has a newer product out called Accelerated Composition Platform. It allows you to configure role-based applications that are BPM and workflow enabled, that have built-in reports and dashboards, and has smart routings and timers and work queues, and it allows you to configure an application quickly and easily. And all this is built on top of Documentum, which allows you to do the basic things like version control and be able to do records management and to do that tight integration with the ERP systems and CRM systems like we've talked about. So you have all the capabilities of a really world-class repository in addition to the workflow and business process automation capabilities. And the net result of XCP is a case management construct that is almost like a smart folder that allows you to deliver the right data, process, content, and collaboration tools to the right people at the right time, maintaining policies. So it's all information in context. So let's get into a little bit about our solution. So our solution, once again, is built on top of the Captiva product, the Documentum product, and we have configured and built it for more than 20 customers, where we've optimized those technologies and have pre-built extraction templates, validation rules, sets, workflows, and reports on top of these two technologies to build an overall solution which significantly reduces time for implementation and increases the overall value. So content comes in, invoices or expense reports through any number of sources. They're routed through Captiva. There's individuals who are able to do validation or index clients to manage exceptions and potentially fix indexing issues. Once Captiva is complete, it's sent to Documentum for approvals and GL coding and a number of factors and functions you may do within the Documentum and XCP workflow environment. They will be interfaced through a web interface, and both our Captiva and Documentum solutions interface tightly with the ERP, and we'll show you that as well. Lastly, there is a capability for the supplier and vendor to even have an interface into the repository to see a quick status, or maybe upload supporting documentation. The interface with the ERP is always quite critical. We have a number of ways that we integrate with the ERPs. We're able to pull vendor PO and other information to do the preliminary validation in Captiva. Perfect example of that is this a duplicate invoice? And if so, what do we want to do? Reject it back to the vendor, or allow it to go into a hold queue. After Documentum is processed and coded and approves the invoice, we want to be able to automatically create the voucher and process it for payment. We have the ability to contextually view invoices from the ERP. We have integrated with all the main ERPs like SAP and PeopleSoft and Oracle and a number of others to allow you to override the paperclip feature so that when you're in a AP transaction in the ERP, you can retrieve the document and the supporting documents from the repository real time. And lastly, it's nice to have a status capability where, let's say you approve an invoice and through email, and then the vendor calls you a week later saying, hey, whatever happened to I still haven't got payment. You go back to that email and go into the repository and see that the ERP updated the repository saying, oh no, that invoice was paid last week, here's a check number and date. So I'll give you just an example of an integration. This particular one is with PeopleSoft, but we've done similar integrations with a number of other ERPs. So this is actually a PeopleSoft interface where an individual is trying to input a claim against a flex spending account. So the employee can come in and click the entry. They fill out a standard ERP form around what the service was for and the amount and the date. And then obviously it's important that they are able to upload their actual receipt. In this particular case, we print out a barcode cover sheet, which allows them to print the page, put it on top of their receipt, send it into the system, and then when the system receives it, all you have to do is click status just a minute later. It's gone through Captiva and put into the Documentum system, and seconds later is available to be viewed contextually from within the ERP. So with that, that's a quick overview of who we are and our solution around accounts payable. With that, I'll turn it over to Peter Hens for a live demo.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Let's open up our system and we'll start with our Captiva scanning process. So I'm sorry, let me get to the proper server here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is mail in a couple of invoices. So I have 2 invoices here attached to this email, and I will just send that off, and the system will automatically extract those invoices from the email and send it through the process. Another thing that I can do is I can have a folder set up for faxed invoices. So most fax systems will deposit their fax documents to a particular folder, and I can simulate that here by dragging a couple of invoices into a watched folder. The system will then pick that up and begin processing it. And then the third way that I can bring it in that I'll show you is by actually using a scanner. So we'll log into the scanning application, and what this will do is you can see that the two faxes that were in our watch folder got picked up. So I'll create a new scan batch, and then I will scan my documents. And here our pages are coming in, so I'll finish scanning. And this I want to illustrate, one of the things that John had mentioned is about how the system will automatically classify the documents. So here I have a 2-page invoice, and then the third page is a separate invoice. System will automatically recognize that, hey, I've got a 2-pager, and I'm breaking to a new document, which is a separate invoice, so it'll automatically keep those all separate. I can just throw this stack of documents in. The system will automatically detect and separate them accordingly. So now that I've finished my batch, I've now sent in 6 invoices 3 different ways: email, fax, and scanning. So now I will go into my validation and take a look at what happens. Now normally, if everything matches, if my vendor information is correct, my PO is matched, the document can actually go right on through into my repository and ERP system without a person having to touch it. trying to give a demo, that would be probably pretty boring. I wouldn't have anything to show you. So we've artificially introduced a few errors so that you can see what's happening. So now you can see I have three different batches, each one with 2 invoices. So those are my 6 invoices. So let's grab the first one and see what it's looking for. So this one, it turns out there's really nothing to be done. Everything passed and it matched, so it can just go right on. Again, we're just trying to illustrate what's happening. So we're artificially stopping it for you to see. In this particular invoice, it gives us a warning that it's a duplicate invoice. So this is an illustration of going back to the original ERP system and checking against that, and we can see we've got a duplicate invoice. So we will reject this one and then move on to another, move on to the next invoice. This invoice is now looking for an invoice date, and you'll notice that this is a Spanish invoice, and it's following the European date format. So I can just highlight the date itself, and it automatically converts it into the right format that I want. I hit enter to accept it, and we're now off to the next invoice. This one, we have purposefully set it to grab the wrong value. So it's picking a sales order number as opposed to the purchase order number. So I will come over and highlight the proper purchase order number and hit enter. And you'll see what happens is it goes back to the ERP system with that purchase order number. It pulls back the correct vendor information.
2 things I would add that are kind of neat features of the system. If you notice on the left, when documents are brought into the system, you can watermark. We typically watermark it with the way it came in, the date and time, and the person that actually brought that into the system. So notice this is brought in as a fax, a certain date and time, and even by the fax number that sent it in. Secondarily, at a high level, you notice on the left is the image, and on the right is the data that's been pulled from the image, the values that have been pulled automatically. And if you notice that they're only highlighting the issues. We have extremely high rates of success at pulling both the header level information as well as the line item information. If Peter clicked on any one of these, like invoice date, you notice it would actually then take him to the right place, highlight it on the screen on the left, and you can kind of tab through this interface. So we're just showing you the exceptions, but also letting you know that it did successfully pull all this other data off of the page.
That's right. Thanks, John. Lastly, I'm having it does a validation check. It wants to compare the invoice total with the amount that's coming back from the purchase order, and yet another validation check that we can.
And depending on the complexity of your validations, we've even had customers ask to validate that the tax is correct for that particular jurisdiction, or shipping is either on or not on. Let's say there's a rule for a vendor that says that you don't pay shipping for that vendor. And if they do charge shipping, we can actually have that be an exception that is flagged.
Right. Here's our 2-page invoice, and it automatically extracted all the line item information and compared that against the purchase order. And now it's looking for confirmation. What it's going to bring up now is a screen that lets me do line item matching against the purchase order. And it actually flagged one of the line items that doesn't quite match what the purchase order is saying. So if I double click on that, I can see that the unit price is different on the invoice from what it says in the purchase order. So I'm going to go ahead and correct that to what it was in the purchase order, and we'll short pay this invoice accordingly. You can see down below it's highlighted that, and we can now apply the change, and off we go to the next invoice.
So obviously not only are we matching and validating at the header level, but we're even pulling the line items, and there's an automated fashion and thresholds that we can set that automatically match the line items against the purchase order.
And this last invoice, this is a non-PO invoice, and we have the opportunity to do GL coding here. So I'll select a particular GL code, hit OK, and oops, sorry, hit OK, and then accept the invoice, and then we're finished. We've processed all our invoices.
And one thing nice about this interface is it's all keystroke driven as well. As many AP processors know that, you know, using the mouse sometimes takes longer than if you know all the hotkeys. And the other thing you notice is that it only took that processor to the next issue, so you didn't have to you know, click around to get to the next one. It just you can very quickly process batches of invoices.
Right. And here, illustration of the separation of different types of processing queues. If you want to organize your workforce, we can set up an error queue, and I'll switch to that. And remember the invoice that I rejected, well, that's now presented as in the error queue, so I can do a final delete step here, and now I've completely processed all of my invoices. So let's switch here, and we'll go over to the Documentum system, and this is where the invoices get stored and where we integrate further with the ERP system, and we can also conduct a workflow for review and approval. So we log in, and what I'm logging into, this is my my landing page. I'm in our simulated workflow here. I am an AP processor, so I have a number of invoices to process, and you can see here these are the 5 that we just went through Captiva. Remember, the 6th invoice was deleted as a duplicate. So up top here, I have if I have a large number of invoices to sort through, I have some filtering capabilities. If I'm a supervisory role, I can look at not only my invoices but all in-flight invoices. Scrolling down a little bit, I have some dashboards that can show metrics. I want to be able to see you know, what's my average processing time. That's critical to reduce that if you want to take advantage of any sort of early payment discounts. We also can see how many invoices happen to be sitting in which of the various stages of our processing. And then down below, I can see any invoices awaiting approval or recently paid. So we will now go take a look at one of the invoices. So first thing I'll do is open that up, and what will happen is there's a queue for AP processor. So the assumption is there may be several people working on the same set of invoices. So the first thing I have to do is acquire that invoice to be able to take it out of the queue, so we don't have 2 people working on it at the same time. So you can see down below what opens up is the actual image of the invoice, so I can see the scanned image. I can also put a comment here, something like I think I spelled that right. Sorry. Anyway, we can put comments that'll appear on the document. They don't affect the underlying image, but they're stored with it, so anyone in the workflow will be able to see those comments and annotations. I have a number of tabs up top. I see information about the invoice itself. This was data that was extracted from it. I can go to a GL coding tab. This might be something part of your workflow. You send it to a person in the business that may want to charge it to a particular project. So we'll go ahead and simulate that here. We'll put in department, account information, what project, and I'll also change the amount and be able to illustrate the ability to assign and split the invoice across multiple GL codes. So we'll add a new row, and you can see that the complete button just went from gray to active because I needed to have the full amount of the invoice coded before I could send it on. I have a tab here that shows the invoice history, so we can see who scanned it and when the workflow started, and as it goes through the workflow, items will get added to this. I have general document information. I can email the invoice. I can reject it, and we can have a configurable list of rejection reasons. And again, I can place the comments general to this workflow. So let me complete this particular step. So this might be considered a pre-processing step where I want to do some GL coding. And to illustrate some stickiness in the workflow, I can actually have that that item come back to me as part of the workflow. Let me refresh the screen here. You can keep track of who the last performer was, and then in your next step of your workflow, be able to take advantage of that and send it back to that person later on downstream in your workflow. Or you can do the converse. Let's say you want to have two people, make sure that two independent people do some validation on an invoice for security reasons. The system can make sure that those two people are always different, so you don't have the same person doing the same task. So let me go to the next step, which is validating. This is where we're going to be assigning who the next performer is going to be. Again, because this was assigned directly to me, I don't have to acquire it. It's automatically assigned rather than to a queue. Here's my comment still. So I will pick who the next approver is going to be. And this is a manual case right now that I'm simulating. We also have the ability for it to automatically assign who the next approver is, and we'll show that shortly. So let me add Charles as the next approver, and then we'll complete. And what will happen here is Charles will get an email. He could also log in to the system and approve it as you've seen me do here. But we want to show you a lighter weight interface for perhaps someone in the business that doesn't necessarily need all the functionality of the AP system. While we're waiting for that email to get delivered, I can show you a couple of other features we have on the invoice. Refresh the screen again. On the this top menu, I have a lot of different choices. I can menu items that I can use. I can do invoice searching. I can browse. There's ability to upload an invoice. I also have a vast array of reports that we can do. And again, these are all configurable. So I can take a look at some metrics where I can show how much, from a dollar perspective, is assigned to each one of my vendors, as well as what's the count. That might be a useful report. I can have some invoice statistics where how are the many invoices and dollar amount are stuck in each particular phase of the process, and then graphs down below that give me some counts for those as well. I have reports by invoice, or if I want to look at an individual invoice, so let's look at, take a look at a specific vendor. If I highlight one of their invoices, then down below I can see some detailed information about who did what, when, and get some specific information about that. Let me click on one that has a little better data. And then lastly, we've got some production reports. So if you want to take a look at individual performers and how they're doing in their processing, we can give you some statistics about all of the invoices they've processed and what time they spent on that. We also have the ability to save the results into an Excel spreadsheet, so you can almost use that as an ad hoc reporting tool by delivering it to Excel that you can further then sort and report off of it. I also have a preferences tab where I can decide what sort of notifications I might want. I can pick the department, the type of the invoice, what particular event is going to happen. Was it paid? Was it cleared? Give me either immediate notification or daily or weekly digest. So this is a way for me to configure what sort of notifications that I want. And then lastly, there's a delegation component. If I'm here, I don't have any configured. So to illustrate how I can put that together, I can pick my department, the type of the invoice. I can put a threshold amount and assign who I want to delegate it to, or whether I want them to just simply be a proxy. And the system can automatically have Charles Xavier process it on my behalf, or I can come back and disable it when I'm back from vacation. Let's go check on that email. And we should log in here.
And right now we're just showing you a web mail, but it really does not matter what mail. We have folks using Outlook or Lotus Notes, or it's independent of different emails.
So here, this email I received, it's got a link in it, and if I click the link, it's going to open a lightweight approval application where I can come in and approve it, or I can reject it. If I reject it, I have to select a specific rejection reason. I can take a look at the invoice information, and you can see the GL coding that I did earlier is presented. If there happen to be any supporting files, those are available here. And then lastly, the invoice history. And by the way, you're noticing that we've got some additional entries here as we've gone through a few more steps in the workflow. So let me approve it.
And this is all designed, by the way. We're showing it to you in a web browser. This has been optimized for a handheld, so iOS and Android phones. This has been optimized so that if you get an email requesting you to approve an invoice, you can view the invoice, you can view the history, you can view the all the other supporting data and approve right from within your handheld.
So let me log in as the final person to process this step, and this person would be an ERP specialist in our example here. So they're going to get the a task after it's been approved by the business. We'll come in here, and here's my ERP validation task. So this is the last step before it goes off to the ERP system. And again, the goal here is to oftentimes have two independent people do validation before something that gets sent off.
And quite often we're showing you things that can be set just to show you the possibilities. Most of our customers set these all to be automatic, so that most of their invoices never touch a human being as long as they fit the correct thresholds, they're purchase order based, and match the matching criteria. So
correct. So here I've acquired the task, and I'll just go and complete that, and that will actually go off into our ERP system, and our simulated ERP system will immediately process it for payment. So we can then take a look at and pull the status information, and here we are down below. Our invoice has gone through all the way through and gotten a paid status. Lastly, let me log out and log in as one of the business administrators, and this will give you the insight into what sort of business administration configuration. So you don't have to go back to your IT folks to redesign the application anytime your business rules happen to change. So let's close the window and log back in. And here we are. You'll notice up top we've got, because this individual is part of the business admin role, we now have a new menu item here up top called administration. We have notification and delegation that I showed earlier, but the administration person can look at all the notifications that have been set up and all of the delegations that have been set up and be able to change it. So if you have someone that forgot to set their delegation before they went on vacation, an admin person can come in and do that on their behalf. So here are some of the routing capabilities. So I can select the department, the actual invoice type, threshold amount, and then for the actual workflow processing, I can pick either serial or parallel. If it's parallel, we can either choose all or first to approve, and then I can actually identify who the specific approvers are. I can come in and update and build this list, and that will control how the workflow behaves, and this can be done by a business person rather than having to go into the designer tool and manipulate the workflow itself.
And this is quite powerful because this is schedule of authorization or delegation of authority, and this is quite common in that customers will have hundreds or thousands of these rules specifying this type of AP for this customer over this amount needs to be approved by these people. And the last thing I would add is that we can put variables in there. You can say like a level 3 person in your department, and we can at runtime resolve that against Active Directory or LDAP. So another very common use case of this is say anything over this amount and this type of invoice or this type of AP transaction needs to be approved by a level 4, and the system is smart enough to, at the time of determining that approver to resolve who that individual is. So that's it for the demo of the repository and the workflow and the capture portions. Let's go back to the slide deck and recap.
Okay.
So in summary, there's a number of different features and functions that we highlighted, but these are the general categories of features. There's a rich capability around being able to image or capture an AP document and extract the data without doing manual indexing. There's a whole process that one needs to go through to either PO match or GL code. There's a number of capabilities that we have around queue and automated matching and exception handling there that Peter showed as part of that line item GL assignment. It's critical that tight integration occurs. We understand that we're not the vendor master nor the GL accounting system, so be able to contextually integrate with those systems is critical. The repository has a lot of just basic capabilities to be able to store and retrieve and do annotations and history. And you saw some information on approvals. You can do it, both manual or automated, and the ability to be able to approve with an email. We also have an e-signature DocuSign integration. So if you actually have DocuSign and want to put a DocuSign watermark signature, we have a tight integration with that, allows you to do that seamlessly with DocuSign. A really configurable notification engine. Security is paramount to the system. You can allow only certain level users, there's only certain users to see the invoice or see the invoice process. And lastly, you have the ability to have some tight compliance to be able to have retention policies and be able to assign controls and even do automated disposition. So, in summary, we believe that there's really significant improvements in technology and capabilities with our system and with our supporting technologies built on top of EMC to allow you to do cost reduction, revenue enhancement, risk reduction, all the while improving visibility into your AP system. So we want to thank you for joining us today and learning more about our solution around accounts payable automation, and we look forward to following up with you at your convenience. Julie, I'll turn it back over to you.